Hi, Hearties. This is Heart to Hearties, the official after show and podcast where we bring your questions directly to our cast and crew. I'm Marg from San Diego.
I'm Kim from Barrie, Ontario.
And I'm Lori from Mobile, Alabama.
And we're here all out of tissues. We have pulled them from the box. They have been plucked one by one. And we're still talking about the amazing episode 11 brought to us by Lindsay Sturman and Joy Gregory, written by you. Oh my goodness. And of course, also directed by the amazing Peter Deluise. So welcome, Joy. We're so excited to get to talk to you.
Oh, thank you, Marg. It's great to be back and talk about this really special episode. This was like a big one that we were slowly building to, and it was really gratifying to work on it.
Well, we really want to hear all about it. So we're going to start with a little bit of a round robin. Lori, you want to start us off on what was your favorite aspect of last night's episode?
I loved how little Jack's diagnosis and the imperative of getting the insulin affected the entire community, and we got to see it unfold with the little kids, reacting to all of this, and especially Rosemary. I identify with how Rosemary, with the busyness, have to keep busy doing things, and I just love that we got to see all the different reactions to the devastating news.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Okay, Kim, what was your favorite aspect?
I really love the leaning into the technical aspects of the diabetes research and the clinical trial, having to find 10 people in the area or they wouldn't come or they wouldn't deliver it. I found that really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
And made a really good dynamic within the town. And in fact, I live 15 minutes from the homestead of the lead researcher on that at the University of Toronto. So it's Cedric or Sir Frederick Banting, and I mean the local high school is named after him. It's just so it really resonates with me as well. Diabetes. Type 1 diabetes runs through my spouse's family. So, and there's so many Hearties that are affected as well that I just love this storyline.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's gratifying to hear. Thank
So
you.
good. It's such a good delve into Canadian, something that they're so proud of in Canada, and I love that. So,
Mhm.
for me, the faith messages last night were they were presented in such a real fashion and in a complex fashion. They didn't simplify faith. There were multiple faith messages. So, I mean, there were so many things. But Joy, what was your favorite aspect of the show?
Oh boy. Getting to write Elizabeth's letter. That was
Oh,
yeah, that was a big moment for the season. And I still remember sitting down at my dining room table going like, okay, I've avoided this as long as I can, and tonight's the night. I've got to dive into this and write it. And you have to sort of it's like walking a tightrope. Just don't look down, just like get to the other side, yet write a version. But oh, sorry, I should have turned that off. But discovering that was my favorite piece of writing probably in the whole season.
wow. Well, it was stunning, and we have lots to talk about. But starting off, Hardy Donna Miller of Ottawa wrote last night, "I'm loving this episode from May using her pharmaceutical background to help, then she and Mike volunteering to go to Toronto to get the insulin, to Little Jack's classmates making sure their baseball game would be on the radio." To the adults finding enough diabetics to participate in the trials, to Lee and Bill doing whatever they had to do to get Mike and May off the train. I'm not crying. Are you crying? She said, we want to know, were the writers crying when they saw the dailies, because it was emotional.
Oh, I've started crying as soon as Lindsay and I were sending pages back and forth. We worked on this one together, and I was crying. We were crying at each other's pages. Like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that would do it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Oh.
I I think I was not watching daily super carefully because we were so focused on landing the finale. So I think I first encountered the cast and Peter's amazing work in a first assemblage. So I
Mhm.
think I saw everything in context with a first edit.
Okay.
And was just blown away by the depth of everyone's work and seeing colors in the spectrum that were new to me to see in the life of the show. Seeing Nathan that vulnerable was incredibly moving.
Incredible.
Mhm.
Yeah, and just little things like, I remember laughing with Peter in the prep meeting saying, I know, I'm describing like Elizabeth running from the house in in the whipping wind and looking up at the moon. And I said, I'm going full Bronte on you. Uh,
I'm so putting that together now.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. But still seeing Aaron's face, like just so broken and saying, and the voiceover saying why. It was so much more powerful. You talk about the episode in an abstract way because you just got to make the pieces fit together at some point. And then, you feel it when you're writing it, but then wow, to see it come to life is incredible. And you sort of remember, oh, we put these characters through an incredible thing. And the actors are really giving you the reality of it.
Yeah.
It's almost shocking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that was something else.
Mm.
Hearing May give up their trip to Niagara Falls and say, this is so much more important than that, was so reminiscent of sacrifices we've seen over the years in Hope Valley. Indeed, Michelle Eaton of Alabama said, this episode feels so much like the first season of Coal Valley, when the families supported one another and carried those who were grieving and struggling to make it through those horrible days. Can you tell us how you decided to have Mike and May be the ones to go on the journey for the medicine?
Well, here's where, the necessary limitations of production capabilities leads to great storytelling. Like we couldn't go with Elizabeth and little Jack to Toronto. So we thought, well, let's just make him so affected that she can't dare to get on the train. We'll send Mike and May in a selfless act of love because that's what Hope Valley is all about. And May, of course, as a healthcare affiliated professional as a pharmacist would believably have a connection with the University of Toronto or relationships there to draw upon. And then we only had to pay for and produce one little phone booth that they were calling to give a report from. But we also loved making May, kind of bringing her forth as a healthcare professional to be part of this incredible historic breakthrough. This whole story started when, as we often do at the beginning of a season, just do a dive into what are the headlines of this year, and how do they suggest a story for us? And we learned about Banting and Best's incredible, like world-changing breakthrough that had happened in Canada this year or the year before. So they had, we were hoping that they had some infrastructure in place to make it believable that a little boy in a faraway town would be able to access this treatment. And it was so thrilling to see May and Mike be part of bringing this incredible breakthrough to Hope Valley.
Well, I thought it was really advantageous that she went as well, so that she was able to be trained to administer the program.
That's
And
right.
I thought they, by throwing that in there, that it made it so much more believable. So that was
Good.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, and May has gone through, like all the characters in Hope Valley, she's gone through a progression in terms of her character. But one of the things that Hearties had really been craving was to see her do her pharmacy work. And we get it. It doesn't fit into every storyline for her to be doing the mortar and pestle all the time. But it was nice to see her really be able to be effective in her
Involved.
work. So that was
Yeah. both she and Faith got to really
Yeah.
step up in these last few episodes. It was really exciting to see.
Oh my gosh, Andrea's face. Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
so much great acting. Amazing.
And she's so pregnant shooting
At the
those.
time,
Oh,
yeah.
pregnant.
She had
I
her
think
baby like days later after we wrapped.
Wow.
yes, she did say that, like it was within a week of
Yeah.
Mhm.
finishing filming.
Mhm.
There were not blankets or bags or things big enough at that point to cover
Yeah.
the fact that she was really, really pregnant. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Did such beautiful work. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yes.
So we love too about how Lucas said a couple of times that none of the governor's stuff was important. So clearly this diagnosis brought into sharp focus for the entire community what really matters in life.
Absolutely. I mean, as anyone who has had the misfortune to live through their child or a child they love going through something like this, you know how it just makes time stop. And the challenge for this episode, I remember when we set up like, okay, we're gonna do episode 11 is wait for the insulin. Well, guess what's not a dramatic story?
Waiting, sitting around and waiting. Yeah.
Exactly. So the big challenge was, oh boy, we've given ourselves this big dramatic episode, and now we have to wait for the thing that's going to help. How do we create a store? How do we create a shape? How do you activate life stopping? And it was really fun to come up with solutions to that.
Yeah, well, that's another one. As we've talked about, Hearties are so soft-hearted, and those fans who attach to Lucas and his buddy, know that there's a special relationship there. So it was important for him to acknowledge, how devastated he was too.
Absolutely.
I mean, not in a big way, but he certainly was like any news. I love that so much. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that moment of any news. I remember I visited set and we were shooting that moment.
Oh.
And I texted Paul Redford, who had pitched this idea when we were breaking the episode story of just like all of them sitting one after the other. Any news? Nope. And it was playing with the littlest bit of comedy isn't right, but there was a kind of community and coming
Levity.
together. Yeah.
A little levity.
A little lightness.
Yeah. And I loved how
way
they were
back to
playing
the first
it. Yeah.
season. Add a little levity.
Exactly. And it also is the moments that I really look for in a story that makes it feel like a when calls the heart story is the moments when the story pauses and you can just feel with everybody. And we let the moment land. We're not always rushing on plot. So I also loved the story for that as well.
Yeah, it was such a guy thing to do. Just any news, it's just, yeah.
Yes. And I also loved in the construction of this story, finding that the women had a quest that Joseph helps with, but our usual mounty judge actiony men are just stuck. They're static and looking for a pony is all we give them.
Well, at least they had something. They had something to do, and
something that kept them busy.
Yeah,
exactly. And the pitch was always they're upset about a lost pony because they can't let themselves be as upset as they are about what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you imagined Pal getting loose, or was he stirred? Animals often have a sense of things. You imagine that Pal was stirred up, or
oh, I love that pitch. I wish I could say that we had thought of that because that's really lovely. But no, we just imagined in everyone's distraction, somebody let a latch unlatched.
Got it. Okay.
Well, whose idea was it for Rosemary to play the I Remember game with Elizabeth to write the letter? It was so important for Rosemary to be effective with her help, and that just was the perfect exercise for it.
Yeah. I loved the idea that she needed her friend to write this most difficult writing assignment of her life. I remember is just a get the juices flowing exercise that I use with myself. So I brought this to the script. Um, and it created a flood of images that we could play with to create her letter too.
Yeah. Well, and then when we get to the letter in the monologue,
Yes.
as Joseph is praying before Mike and May head to Toronto, that monologue is so beautiful. I remember giving birth to him in a snowstorm in the middle of the woods. I remember when I put him in the crib for the first time. He looked like a little acorn. I remember the weight of him on my chest, that he had an alarming talent for hide and seek. That was just gorgeous. A montage of memories and images for the Hearties. Did you write that, Joy, or was that Lindsay, or was that both of you?
I don't remember if Lindsay or I wrote the first draft of that. Well, I wrote the letter, so I guess it had to be me. But I did have a lot of help. That was a lot of like, okay, everybody, tell me what the key moments are. And I went to YouTube and found supercuts. I love the fan supercuts. And so yeah, I had a lot of people feeding me what are going to be the highlights for this, we're going to put a montage reel in people's minds with words here. And so everybody helped me out with that, but yeah, I got to assemble that.
Boy, did you. Even just reading it now, I don't know if y'all know, I had to take a beat because giving birth to him in a snowstorm, boy, I can remember that vividly.
Yeah.
All those moments, I remember them so vividly.
Yeah. And I just wanted to set up that acorn image. So because I knew I wanted it to land with, I just want you to help my little boy grow up to the sky. Everybody deserves that.
Yes.
Gorgeous. Well, more gorgeous writing. My dog wants to say hello. Do you want to say hi, Chewy? Okay, come on up and say hi. Okay, say hi.
Good, Chewy.
All right. Yeah.
Oh.
So, I just loved the interspersing of the prayer that Joseph was giving in the cafe with the letter. It was so gorgeous. It just, to me, watching this episode, it was like when you go to the Nutcracker and they do that part where first the Russians come in and dance, and then you have the Chinese dancers. It's like every single, like, is the directing like out of, extraordinary this week? Is the act, oh my gosh, her performance. Oh my gosh, I mean, like literally every aspect of the show last night just felt like it was just, and I don't mean that they were like competing. It all flowed beautifully, but it just was, it just felt like the script just brought out the best in everybody. Does that happen? Do scripts do that sometimes that?
Well,
Yeah.
This was a big penultimate episode, so we all knew we had to bring our A game. And I've certainly been on series that build to a big conclusion, and everything comes together really beautifully. Lindsay and I also talked a lot about how you're on a good show when frequently on a TV show you are laying track 10 feet in front of the moving train, and like and somehow like, oh my God, it looks like we planned it this way, and like you didn't quite. What I so we this show doesn't go for big incident very often. I really appreciate how gentle it is in its storytelling. I'm someone who's
So do we.
I've been frustrated on shows that sometimes I've been on sweet family shows where the folks in charge just couldn't quite trust that emotional moments between wonderful actors is enough. And you don't have to have a lot of incident. But this show really trusts that. And I love that about it. But when it's time for an incident, we really go for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people spoke to that last night and said that they haven't cried this hard since Jack died, that they haven't felt this emotionally engaged since then. And so, I think it was time for an incident, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of conversation when we first turned the script in among all the members of the team of like, gosh, is this so dramatic that it should be the finale? Like, where do we go after this? And Lindsay held firm, and I hope next week you all agree, I think you will, that the contract we have with our viewers, she talked about that. The contract we have is that we're going to put you through something tough, and then there will be healing. There will be love and healing. And she felt really strongly like that there just wasn't enough time to recover if we ended the season with this episode. And I think she was really right. And so we pulled out all the stops for this one. Peter and the cast did such beautiful work bringing it to life. I felt really lucky to be part of this one.
Well, you did say we definitely needed some lighter moments to contrast with the heavy drama that went on. And Heather Hood of Minneapolis loved how the baseball sequence did that. The tie-in to them knowing about play-by-play, because that's how Angela follows the game. And then the intercuts of everyone reacting to the play-by-play. So can you tell us why this is such an important element?
This is where Lindsay was such a good protector and leader of the show. She always maintained from the beginning that we've got to do this act's worth of storytelling where the kids come together. And at first it was going to be a baseball game with Toby and Cooper.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know, whether it was ever actually a visual baseball game or
It was
whether it was
going to
all.
be. And then, as we were heading toward prep for production, we just ran up against the reality of shooting in Canada in November. It's too cold.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be raining, and
Right.
the day is so short. And can we please move this into the radio? And we ended up, as often happens throughout my career in TV, the things that make you annoyed because there are limitations at first become the reason why something beautiful can flower within the limitations. And the idea of Angela saying, I'm going to tell you, welcome to my world. This is how I perceive, events in the world. I get a commentary. I listened to the sounds, and radio emerged as kind of a theme of the season. So it was thrilling to give it this really emotional payoff that the
So much
kids
fun.
kind of invent sports commentary.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
When they were like, well, what do we do now?
Yeah,
That was
I know,
awesome.
right? I love
that
that
was
moment.
darling. That was so darling how they were
I
kind of.
loved it.
Yes.
They're so talented. Billy and
Yeah.
Elias are. I mean, first of all, it's just amazing to see those young people leading a massive ensemble scene like that.
Yeah.
And then I just thought Peter, the intercuts there were amazing. I think
Yeah.
the writing was amazing too. Just Jacob, Oliver on the balcony, yelling into Allie. Like it created a lot of interest. And I loved watching Lee's reaction,
Yeah,
the popcorn
I
flying.
know. Popcorn
It was
flying.
That was fun.
seeing them, everybody listening to the radio, Highland listening to,
Oh, I
his little,
know. It was so sweet. It
come on,
really was.
Timmy, come on,
And
Timmy.
yeah, and for a long time when we were just laying out what's the basic structure of this really important episode going to be, I had a voice in my head going like, we might feel like it's a tonal imbalance or a mismatch to do this joyous thing. And man, was I wrong. Like Lindsay had her North Star and she never wavered in knowing like we have to do it and it will work. And I couldn't have agreed more when I
Yeah.
saw it together. It was just
Bravo. I think it totally
Yeah.
worked. And I love the idea of that those kids needed something to do too. You had
Yeah.
Pal the Pony for the guys, you had the quest for the women but Mrs. Thornton's kids needed something too. And that they did that for her and for little Jack was really just so special. Beautiful.
Yeah, it really worked.
Totally agree. Can you talk to us about calling on Oliver's experience, admin the suffering that he's experienced, so he could help Allie? That was really a moment between them last night.
I know. I loved that moment. It might be
You
one of my
did.
favorite moments in the episode.
Yeah.
I just love seeing their friendship. I feel like we really landed their friendship in that scene because
Mhm.
she's
Agreed.
carrying this burden, and he's the only person she verbalizes it to.
Mhm.
And that he draws upon his own understanding of like blaming yourself for everything. I feel like it's it's a moment of growth. You see Oliver grow on screen when he's able to say like, look, I do this too, and I'm telling you, like, it's pointless. It's not going to change anything. And also, by the way, it's not true. And that he sounds like a kid saying it. You know, he's not too improbably wise, but you get the impression that the wisdom comes to him pretty hard earned.
Mhm.
I just thought they both played it so beautifully, Jacob and Jada.
The way they looked at each other.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we start breaking these episodes and we're not thinking, let's make sure we have a moment where like Allie and Oliver's relationship moves forward. You're just thinking, oh my gosh, let's find a way to keep them active while they're waiting for insulin. And then these little moments just flower out of the conditions. It's always the little miracle
Yeah.
of writing as you find
Wow.
out.
Wow.
Much fun.
So many beautiful moments, including that scene outside the infirmary with while they're waiting for Mike and May to get back with the insulin. Just so beautiful. I love how Minnie said, "No one's sleeping tonight."
Yeah.
It was so
Yes.
clear that nobody was sleeping, just like when Rosemary was having her baby.
Yes.
Everybody was up and ready to support them. And then adding on to it, we end up with Minnie's breathtaking monologue. You look at the ground under your feet, not at the top of the mountain.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that beautiful? Lindsay pitched that really early and it never went away. It was always going to be what she said in that scene.
Beautiful. So how did you come up with the decision to draw on Minnie's experience as she had gone through the near-death moment with Angela?
Right. Well, one of the things I love about joining a show that's been on the air for so many seasons is you have so much history to draw on. And Minnie was, you know, quite a ways down the road that Elizabeth is just starting to take her first steps on. I loved remembering that when Minnie arrived on our show, she was a traumatized mom who had been through something really tough with Angela, and it had hardened her, and we saw her soften and learn to trust again. So using that history that we had seen on screen to speak to Elizabeth and to offer her counsel was a great gift to remember, like, yeah, who do we have in our world who's perfectly equipped to talk to Elizabeth in this moment? I'm always looking for what are interesting pairings that we haven't seen enough of, and that's a place to see new characters and see characters in new ways. Yeah. So she was the perfect person for that.
And as you were talking about it, it's almost like a full circle moment because it was Elizabeth who helped Minnie come through that traumatic shell and start to trust other people with Angela. And now maybe Elizabeth is going to have to be relying on her to help her through all of this.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a giving circle between them.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So now we're going to skip a little bit to the end of the show when they had the gathering of the blessing of the animals and hearing Goldie giggle at that end.
Isn't that lovely?
It was cathartic for us because you hear that cute little giggle.
I know. And it's just something, you know, that the editors found that just happened on a take. And every time I watched the cut, it was like, oh, it healed me too.
Yes, perfect. Rebecca Aaron of Ontario asked, was there originally a scene that showed Pal the pony being found? It felt as though it might have been cut for time.
Yeah, this was such a major episode. We had such big, important stories to tell, and choices had to be made in editing to focus on the beats that felt like we just had to have them. And sometimes things do get sacrificed. And we felt like we could cover that story point in Joseph's sermon.
So how did Pal get home, and how did they discover that Pal was back?
The men went looking for him, and Bill found him, and Bill brought him home and got him home safe. Yeah.
Bill found him from Jackaroo.
Oh, maybe I'm misremembering. I think now I'm remembering back when we thought we were going to include that scene. We thought, oh, let's let's do it in a little bit of a funny way, which is like Pal just showed up. He was like, no, he was wandering around and then he just showed up. Hey, what's up?
Just wanders in.
Yeah, you got any oats? And we imagined that Bill would become like overwhelmed with emotion because again, like he's been guarding against I cannot feel what I'm actually feeling. And so when Pal returns, it's as though little Jack is saved, it allows his heart to break open. But we had to make other choices.
Yeah.
And so then that connected to the blessing of the animals. There was a little mention of it or something.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
We added a little line in the blessing of the animals.
I gotcha. Okay.
So how did St. Francis's blessing of the animals come to be part of the show?
Well, one thing I love that Lindsay brought is she was happy to bring greatest hits of many Christian faith practices.
Mm-hmm.
So the St. Francis blessing of the animals is mostly a Catholic thing, although I think it happens in other churches too.
Yeah.
We did research it because folks were questioning it. And I remember we looked it up and found like, no, there's a few other faiths that do this St. Francis thing. But and sometimes, just to finish my thought, sometimes Lindsay was also bringing in like Ave Maria. She wanted Elizabeth to sing, which is a pretty Catholic song. The
Wow.
Mary.
Oh, makes me cry every time.
Oh, I know, it's so beautiful. But Lindsay loved the idea that instead of Joseph just giving a straight ahead sermon about isn't it wonderful that little Jack has been saved by the blessing of our scientific breakthrough and the blessing of all the good deeds that led to it reaching all the people that it helped, everyone in our insulin group. But Lindsay just had the idea of using instead the metaphor of all creatures great and small. That little Jack is one of the many tender, vulnerable creatures who rely on us for their care, and using Pal the pony as one of the creatures who needed to be brought back into the fold. And instead of going directly at it, to talk about the metaphor of blessing all the vulnerable creatures in our lives.
Beautiful.
Several Hearties were mentioning one of the dogs, like that they caught this shot, and I have to go back and we rewatch that a dog like turned its head like in a funny way. It was
I
so
missed that.
good. Yeah, those services are amazing. It's very fun to see all the animals in Hope Valley together, and that Rosemary might get a dog.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, that's huge.
Usually what Rosemary wants, Rosemary gets. So.
Yeah, I love Lee. I love Lee like hitting Cooper to say like I said maybe, or didn't he say something like that? He was like,
did I say maybe?
Yeah, yes. Didn't I say maybe?
Yes.
Bulldozer's coming through. Rosemary's
So good. Susan McKinney of Elgin, Illinois said, the level of acting in this emotionally charged episode almost defies description. Kevin McGarry truly stunned us last night with his performance. It felt almost like a father-son moment between Bill and Nathan. It was really lovely.
Oh gosh, that's one of my favorite moments of the episode too, and such a discovery of a different side of Nathan. And again, our own anguish as storytellers was, oh my God, we've got this Mountie who's just like holding Elizabeth's hand and being there for her, which is lovely, but it's not active. And then, as often happens, you realize, let's use the thing that feels like an obstacle and make it a fountain of possibility. So out of our sense of anguish that Nathan is stalled and static, make that Nathan's anguish that he confesses to Bill. I'm supposed to be the guy. I'm supposed to get the bad guy, and I can do nothing, and it's killing him. And I was really moved when I saw that scene in the first cut, because I thought, look at that. We are bringing to our viewers masculine tenderness and vulnerability. We're modeling these men who are so powerful, what it looks like to be in pain and to be there for each other and to receive each other's need and vulnerability. And there's I just love that we made room for that on the show, and I celebrate being able to show that on TV.
Well,
Yeah,
it's such a guy thing because they want to fix it. When there's
That's
a
right.
problem, I got to fix this.
That's right.
He couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah. I was so moved by how Jack played Bill's tenderness with Nathan in that moment too. It was really beautiful.
and we've seen them. They do such a funny, grumpy dance together. You know, they're always needling each other from the very first moment where they were fighting over the desk. You know, to see how far they've come, where they often do this little dance where they don't acknowledge being vulnerable or they don't want to share things. So it was very earned to get to this point. And we've seen Bill Avery be a father figure in Hope Valley before, but to be it for Nathan was new, and it was really, yeah, it was really. I just loved. I just felt like this episode brought Elizabeth and Nathan to a completely different level. I loved their bond is so deep now. I mean, it was already deep, but it's just it feels like life partners. I mean, they really, just all their affection, all their certainty with each other. I mean, the previews for next week kind of lead into this life partner suggestion. What do we do with that, Joy? What are we doing with that?
Well, we live with our couple who are there for each other and enjoy the moments that we're gonna get.
Yeah. Did you love how they interacted?
I really did. And again, we were just anguished about the lack of what is there for them to do. And then when you see the cut, the smallest gesture of support and tenderness is a world. It is a cup. It's a meal. So
When he brought the medal, oh my gosh.
Oh, I know. Wasn't that beautiful?
All right, whose idea was that? That was beautiful.
When we first pitched that that little Jack would give the medal to Talia or Lily?
Lily.
On the first day of school. Yeah, because she's scared of school. Someone, it might have been Derek, I can't remember who, said, "Oh, that needs to come back when he's going to earn that medal himself when we do the diabetes."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we knew right away this is going to have a killer payoff.
It was a killer payoff.
Yeah.
It was a healing payoff, but it was a really, really good.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Judy Glenn of Baltimore says that diabetes is a lifetime disease and asks, was there a discussion of handling this storyline? Should there be a 13th season? Of course, season 13 is very much on our minds these days.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes, in the abstract, we've definitely we would intend to honor the ongoing reality of being someone with Elizabeth living with a child with an illness, which I loved this phrase that our diabetes consultant, she's a medical historian who studies insulin development and distribution and access. And she used this phrase that just crystallized it for us. She said, overnight, a fatal disease became a chronic disease. So we want to honor, if we have an opportunity to, the reality of living with a child with a chronic illness that requires ongoing treatment.
Yeah, I think that's a number of Hearties' concern, that it's like, it's not the flu, it's, and we've heard from so many people who have diabetes themselves or who have children with diabetes, type 1 diabetes. And so I think it's a big responsibility now. And did you talk about that in the writer's room? Like, do we want to go with something else other than diabetes because this is such a big responsibility?
We did not waver on it.
Okay.
As soon as we found out the irresistible historical fact
Yeah.
we knew we wanted to bring this to Hope Valley and do it in a real way.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
glad you did. Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks.
so many people in real life are dealing with children with chronic illnesses.
Yes.
Right.
And When Calls the
Yeah.
Heart deals with those in a way that brings the hope out in those.
That's
So
right.
Right.
Yes.
It's
And
really good.
Yeah, that's always our North Star. Yeah.
Well,
we
we're
will-
already in the trailer for next week. We already saw that, Elizabeth's offered this opportunity to do an education conference, but it means she would have to be away for 3 days. And yes,
Plans.
that's going to be the new reality for her. Is
Right.
she going to feel comfortable doing those kinds of things? And
Exactly.
yeah, so
Mhm.
Yep.
Is there anything else you can tease about the season finale?
Well,
Maybe, is there anything you want us to look for?
oh, well, I can share with you that we'll move forward in time a little bit, so we won't be right on the heels of this
oh
this
wow, okay.
this
Okay.
event. And just a little bit to get us to springtime and graduation, and spring will bring new growth and new opportunities. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, because we had no time jump at the beginning, so now we're doing a little time jump. Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And where were we when this happened to little Jack? We were in the fall.
I think we were imagining, yeah, late fall.
Okay.
Kind of
Okay.
close
Well,
to when we
Harvest
were
Festival,
shooting
of
it.
course. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I actually looked up the feast or what is it, St. Francis?
Yeah,
And
that's
it's
in
supposedly
October.
in October.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
So there you go.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
Okay.
Not far from when we were shooting it in reality. Yeah.
Well, I do have to say that there have been a few suggestions that perhaps it was, playing a little loose, that there was a governor in Canada. So I think it's so cool that there's a nice nod to this Canadian history. And did Banting get the Nobel Prize for this?
Banting and Best.
Okay,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
both did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
they did.
I just want to add for the record that in our research and the consultant that we spoke to, there's been a lot of revelation that there were many people who were not credited of playing
Oh,
any
I'm so
part.
glad you said that. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Banting and Best kind of ran away with the lion's share of the accolades and the glory, but it was very much a team effort.
Oh, I bet there's some books about that.
Oh, sure.
Oh, I
Yeah.
There's kind of a little museum at Banting's homestead, and they do recognize other individuals there. It's not just the two of them.
There's
So
been a move to correct the record a little bit.
Good.
I noticed in my research. Yeah.
and
did
and
we
I
miss-
did see
Oh, sorry.
Charles Best actually is from he was from Maine.
Oh,
So it
yeah.
wasn't just the Canadian,
Yes.
the Americans were also involved. Just
That's
happened to
right.
be at the University of Toronto. So
Very
Right.
nice. Very nice. Very nice. Anything else you want to say about this beautiful episode, Joy?
Oh gosh. I'm just delighted I got to tell you that I went full Bronte. It was always my goal.
That really was full Bronte. Totally was. Wow. Yeah. And how much fun was it talking to Peter Deluise about this, about directing this? Because we've heard so much this season about how Peter is brought in for that last block when everybody's super tired and
Oh,
fried, and
yeah.
we've heard how the weather was and how difficult those late nights were and stuff. So
You
it's
had to
all the
keep
more
looking down and not at the top of the mountain.
there you
Yes.
go.
Yes.
Yes. He's our
Well,
strongest soldier.
Hearties would love to have episodes year round, so they do need to hear, the realities of shooting in British Columbia in November
Yeah.
to bring it back to 12 episodes.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're going to have to name this episode, Lori. It's going to be full Bronte. Not full Mountie, mind you. Full
That's
Bronte.
right.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, what a phenomenal episode, Joy. That
Thank
you and Lindsay outdid yourselves on this one. This was just amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today to share all the intention and all the little backstories, all the research that you guys did. We appreciate you being here so much.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for your support and love for the show. It makes my job, my dream job.
Oh,
Oh,
Thank you so much. And Hearties, we loved hearing from you last night. So leave us more comments down below. Leave the comments. Tell us your reaction to episode 11. And of course, join us next Sunday on the Hallmark Channel for the season finale, 9 o'clock Eastern and 8 o'clock Central. We will be on X using that hashtag Hearties and bringing you Heart to Hearties just about every day this week. It's going to be a really busy week to be sure. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single chat. And we'll see you next time on Heart to Hearties. Bye-bye.
Bye.